Joining us now to debate the issue is the economics professor for King's College London, Jonathan Portes, and director of Migration Watch UK, Alp Mehmet. Jonathan, can I start with you? You know, why should asylum seekers be allowed to work? Wouldn't it just, as Esther's just said, would it not just encourage more of these channel crossings that we've seen?
If you think that the primary motivation for people coming from, for example, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on, is to work in the UK, I think that there's not a lot of evidence of that, frankly. There is a more recent issue with people coming from Albania who, up until this summer, largely did come here via this route. They came here and worked illegally by other routes, not by the asylum route. So it is a complicated issue, but we do have, because of, and let's be clear what's going on here, people who have a legitimate claim for asylum, they have the right to have their claim examined, who, while they are waiting to have that claim examined, they cannot work. Now, what the government has done, because of incompetence, mismanagement, and austerity, is that it's leaving these people in limbo. It's not processing claims. And remember, that predated the rise in channel crossings. That's been going on for some years. These large numbers of people who are stuck in the system. Now, what you need to do, ideally, you would process people quickly, either give them refugee status and then allow them to work, which is legal, or reject their asylum claims and then, if appropriate, remove them from the country. In which case, the question of them not working, the question of them working or not working simply doesn't arise. What we have is a problem which has been created by government.
Move on and ask Alp a question now. It's a fair point. These people could be working. We're now seeing more people here. People are seeing asylum seekers in hotels, and they're thinking, could they pay their way in one way or another, Alp? So isn't this a possible solution for the asylum seekers and for the country?
A solution, I would beg to differ. It would make it so much worse. It would put booster rockets behind illegal immigration, and not just across the Channel, but across the board. Those who come here for years, and then when being picked up or discovered to be here illegally, claim asylum. It just encourages all that, and no government serious about tackling illegal immigration, in tackling the boats coming across the Channel, would ever consider it. Fortunately, we have a sensible Home Secretary at the moment who I'm pretty sure would never contemplate it. And look, this has never been done. This is not something that this government has actually taken upon itself not to do. Governments since the beginning of the time when the 1951 Convention came into force have always said no.
Is this not a different time? Alp, is this not a different time? Are people not, now that we've got, a cost of living squeeze, prices are going up, taxes are going up, do we not think that rather than just housing people in largely hotels, they too could be working? There's lots of job vacancies, 1.3 million job vacancies, and they could pay some tax for the support we're getting.
Esther, all you're saying there is that anyone who wants to make it across the Channel in a boat will be okay because they will be allowed to work. That is not sensible, for goodness sake. It's a bad idea. We have 5.3 million people who are registered on unemployment benefits. There are 1.2 million who are actually unemployed, out of work benefits, sorry. And there are millions of people who are not economically active. Wouldn't it be better actually to see about getting them into the workforce?
So, Jonathan, I mean, there's Alp's view would be shared by.
Go on, hang on a sec, Jonathan. Phil.
Yeah, I was just saying that Alp's made the point, which I think lots of people would agree with, that this would just encourage more people to come here if they felt they could work from day one. The government have a system. If you've been waiting over 12 months for your case to be considered, you are allowed to work, and most other places have a similar regime in place. I think it's 9 months in the EU, 6 months in the US. So, I mean, isn't that the fair balance from what you're saying about people waiting in limbo for too long?
I think, so what happened, Alp is wrong that this has always been the case. In the early 2000s, when there was a similar sense of crisis, David Blunkett introduced a new rule that said that or removed the rule that said that they could work after 6 months. But at the same time, the government invested more in speeding up processing. So what Blunkett said was, well, look, we don't want to have anybody waiting more. We're going to process pretty much everyone in 6 months, and then they'll either be deemed to be a refugee, in which case they'll be allowed to work, or they won't, in which case they won't. That worked reasonably well when we were processing people in 6 months. Alp is, of course, completely wrong when he says anybody who came here and claimed asylum would just be allowed to work. The point is that they would be allowed to work for a period of time while their application was being assessed. If they were in fact rejected, of course they wouldn't. If they were accepted, they would.
So is the problem really, Jonathan, about the speed of the process? I mean, you've got the speed of the process and you've got more and more people coming in, so that process is going to be slower. Could you envisage them working for not just 6 months, but could it be 2 years? Could it extend on forever?
We really should not be. There should not be people in the system who are waiting for more than 2 years, any more, frankly, than there should be people who are on a hospital waiting list for more than 18 months. Now, we have a government that, and remember, this rise in application time, just like the rise in NHS waiting times, preceded the recent growth in asylum seekers. It is a consequence of mismanagement and cuts. It is not a consequence of the very recent...
Jonathan,
let's bring in
Jonathan. Can I agree with Jonathan? We do actually often agree on many things, although we do disagree as well, of course. But the fact is, it should be speeded up. The whole process should be speeded up. The other thing that used to happen in Mr. Blunkett's time, by the way, was that there were far more people removed who had failed. That has plummeted now. All it would do, and when we weren't getting 42,000 by the 19th of November in the year crossing the channel, that this is a totally different order of what is going on at the moment, and it's a very bad idea to allow people to work in the way that is being sought.
Alp Mehmet and Jonathan Portes, thank you very much indeed for joining us.